lose their babies to gun crimes. You'll always be your mother's baby. So before you commit a gun crime, think about who you'll leave behind. Gun crimes hit home.
Gotta get that. Oh, I must be careful there. Well, that's a nice picture.
Come on, Anna.
Okay.
Foreclosure doesn't affect just you. It affects your whole family, too. If you've fallen behind on your mortgage, we can help. Call 1-888-995-HOPE, because nothing is worse than doing nothing.
Hi, I'm Sonia Richards of the 2008 U.S. Track and Field team. I'm here with our friends from Jane and the Dragon to say,
the amount counts, so keep portions under control.
When you're on the go, there's nothing better than a healthy snack to give you a boost. But remember, portions count too.
I love fast food, fruit that is. It's the perfect size and great to eat on the fly.
You've got the idea. For fun ways to get healthy, visit www.smallstep.go.
On this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk, the Bronx's flagship television talk show. Because of the special nature of tonight's show, we will not be taking your phone calls, but you can have your say by emailing comments to us at bronxtalk@hotmail.com, and we'll read those on the air during a future edition of our program. Well, tonight we had set up a debate between the candidates in the 86th Assembly District, which serves the University Heights, Tremont, and Morris Heights sections of the Bronx. We invited both Democratic candidates, the incumbent Nelson Castro and the challenger Hector Ramirez. Unfortunately, and frankly quite surprising to me, only the incumbent Nelson Castro has accepted our invitation. As a result, though our hopes for a balanced presentation of both candidates will not be realized, we didn't want to penalize the willing candidate because of the reticence of his opponent. Therefore, we'll have only Assemblyman Castro on the show this evening, and editorially I will tell you it is unfortunate that the people of the Bronx and the 86th District are deprived of the chance to see both candidates. It's certainly not what this program has been about for more than 15 years, and we're sorry that Mr. Ramirez doesn't see the importance of his presence on the show tonight. One other note before we get started, because this was to be a debate, we will not take phone calls so as to eliminate the chance of an absentee opponent to have supporters call in and unfairly get airtime. So proceed we will. Thank you, Assemblyman Nelson Castro, for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Appreciate your presence here. I'm going to ask you the same questions I would have asked if we were having a debate.
Go right ahead.
So let's just start out. Why do you deserve re-election to the New York State Assembly to represent the people of the 86th District?
Well, I feel that my district has been represented well in the last 20 months, approximately, because, I have dedicated my time 7 days a week, 24 hours, 7 days a week at working hard at making sure that resources come into my district. So therefore, there's a lot to be done. I mean, when I came in, there was issues with unemployment, maybe one of the highest unemployment rates in the whole city, and mind you, the Bronx. Problems with issues with senior citizens, our youth. So we definitely need to continue to actually develop and build upon the work that we have done already.
Give me an example, talking about job and employment numbers. They are not pleasant throughout the Bronx. Frankly, I don't know for your particular district. I'm guessing they're also not great. What have you done, and have you seen a difference during the time that you've been in Assembly?
Well, definitely. I had the opportunity to allocate funding for different initiatives that would actually create more jobs in the district. For example, creating more child care providers. Now, having them, giving them the opportunity to become licensed and actually serve a purpose. Now we're moving women from the welfare to the workfare program now, and that's due to the funding that we have allocated, and also people that are on the unemployment rolls. Actually, I was part of the members that signed for the allocation for the $2.8 billion that went to the state for the unemployment benefits, to extend unemployment benefits. So I have worked to actually make sure that the people either get new jobs or they have some sort of support while they're unemployed.
Although these daycare jobs, and also you say extending unemployment benefits, these are nice things. These are not ways that are going to change the nature of life for many people in the Bronx. These are only going to keep them going till something else better comes along. I guess we want to know, can you help them get something better in the long run?
Well, definitely. I mean, we're all hoping, and not only at the Bronx level, but not even at the state, at the federal level. We're all hoping that the economy will change and definitely will create more jobs, and different jobs that are actually jobs that will be permanent for people. But right now, these are things that the micro industry in my district is huge. I mean, you talk about taxi drivers, childcare providers, beauticians, beauty salons, and then the bodega owners. So these are the people that are actually keeping the economy, the local economy, going. And we're actually we're fostering some of those businesses so that they could create jobs for people.
What are the problems of business owners in the district? You talked about small business owners. There are issues with small businesses. They're getting swallowed up in many ways in
taxes,
the competition by big malls and things like that. How do you help them survive and do better?
Well, one of the things that I did, and I'm going to go right into this. Remember the armory. One of the things that when everybody was talking about all the things that they wanted for the armory, I was talking about the businesses that have been in the area for 20, 30 years that had nothing, they were going to gain nothing by having the armory there. So I actually introduced a piece of legislation that will create a tax abatement for the area surrounding the armory, a 2.5 mile square radius. Of the area, so that they could have a tax abatement on their rent.
No, that hasn't passed.
No, that hasn't passed. That hasn't passed.
Deal,
yes,
of course, was
definitely.
squashed. You can read editorial after editorial and op-ed piece after op-ed piece talking about a dysfunctional legislature and how incumbents need to be replaced. I mean, you read them as well as I do. Can you sympathize with voters' frustration with Albany? And really, isn't it time
definitely frustrated myself.
But isn't it time for an overhaul? And a lot of people say, you know what, we could use some new faces there because the status quo, certainly in the Bronx and in areas, in troubled areas, have been there for a long time, and maybe now it's time a new face will provide some new energy.
Well, actually, since I got elected in 2008, and I happen to have the honor of being elected with President Barack Obama, we both faced the same issues. Him at the federal, international level, I faced it in my district. As I say, all politics is local, and I'm facing those issues, and I'm dealing with them as they come on a daily basis. I think that that yes, some people are frustrated. I'm frustrated as well because, as politics goes, I don't consider myself a politician. I'm just a person that got elected to be the voice of the people of the 86th Assembly District in Albany, and that's what I've been doing. As you know, there's 150 people pushing for to bring home the bacon. And
so what needs to be done in your vision in Albany, structurally or with individual members, that would move things through? I mean, we can talk a little bit later about the budget, but give people a sense that, legislators are really doing a good job.
We definitely need to listen more to our constituency, and that's what I think the key is. I've done that, and it works. I mean, I believe in representative power and representative government. I go back to Albany to deliver my people's message, whatever they want. I deliver. So I think that as members of the legislature, we should definitely listen to our district, and to our constituency more.
There are a number of personal issues that I'm sure you're familiar with. They've been written about in the newspapers.
That's the only thing I get on the papers. I don't get the good stuff.
Well, but it's important, and voters read these things too, and I think it's important to talk about them. So I want to just raise a number of them and give you an opportunity to talk about it. El Diario had a story that said you had an affair with an office staffer. The latest word is that she's carrying your child. The Daily News said you denied the affair, but alleged that your wife had domestic violence charges against you. Run down what your voters need to know about your personal life so that maybe they'll feel more comfortable when they read these things.
Well, definitely. I mean, the fact that I am a public official, an elected official, that makes my private life accessible, and people want to know, who is this guy that represents me. In regards to the allegations, because they are all allegations, I definitely have nothing else to comment with the fact that they are allegations, and people. This is an election year, and it happens.
People want to feel comfortable that the people they elect, especially in the borough of the Bronx, the people that they elect are virtuous, and their personal lives are structured properly and in a family way, and especially with allegations. Correct. We know what happened with Hiram Montserrat. Allegations of domestic violence. I think voters would be concerned about these things. Did your marriage break up over a relationship you had with a...
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Our marriage ended up gracefully because my wife and I had the discussion, and we decided that the best thing to do was for us to get a divorce. There was no such thing as domestic violence, in our home. That
never happened. And did you have a relationship with somebody who had been on your staff?
No.
Did not have that?
No.
This story was scurrilous and came from nowhere.
As I said, as soon as I read the story, I understand that the person that came out on the paper. He alleges that this relationship was happening, and he
allegedly the husband of the person.
He wanted an investigation from the ethics committee. Definitely, I called the ethics committee and I said, listen, I definitely want this, and I welcome this investigation. They haven't come up with anything yet. I understand that there's no jurisdiction, because there's the alleged whatever he said that I did. There's no such thing.
Truth to it.
No.
I really need to bring these things up because people want to know. One investigation revealed that there were 9 people registered to vote from your apartment, and then your denial of that raised the interest of the Bronx DA on potential perjury charges because they said some of the 9 were people that you had to know. They were yours and your girlfriend's relatives. Explain to me what that situation
definitely.
is.
I mean, and this is something that happened last year because my opposition at the time, raised those issues. I actually brought it up to court. To the Board of Elections. We actually beat the case at the Board of Elections. They appealed the case. We actually also beat the appeal. And, the last thing they did took it to the Bronx DA. It was something that I understand that the Bronx DA has an obligation to investigate if something is raised, in that matter. But, again, this is all allegations, and it was never a fact, and it was never proven.
With the Efren Gonzalez in jail, Pedro Espada being investigated, Charlie Rangel, a highly respected elected official, being brought up on ethics charges, Bronxites are very concerned about these kinds of things. Your record did say that you collected unemployment while you had a job.
Correction, I have to say that I collected unemployment and I worked an extra hour. That was the actual issue.
That was the issue.
Yes.
So for you, this record is clean, and at this point, these things
that is behind me. I actually got elected in 2008. People knowing that was the fact. I never lied or tried to deny it. Now, I moved on and I pay my debt to society, and definitely pay my debt to the Department of Labor for that extra hour. And I think that the people of the 86th district understand that what Nelson Castro is about. I'm about to just actually talking to them about the truth and what really happened. So, and that's what happened. That's what transcribed there.
Let's talk about some of the politics. The Democratic Party in the Bronx is supporting your opponent, highly irregular for an incumbent. Now
It is highly irregular that he's not. He should be here. He's not here.
Well, that certainly is true, and I've articulated that. What's your relationship like with Carl Hastie? You serve in the same
definitely
elected body.
And if you look at our voting record, we have voted, for the interests of the county. Almost similar. About 90% of our vote is similar. I have worked with the county chair. When it comes to the matters of the borough, we definitely all caucus and sit down and talk about the issues that pertain to the Bronx. I think politically, I came in with the old regime. I came in with the whole when the Jose Rivera and his administration was leaving. So and I'm the one that was left out. So. I think that these attacks are just basically political, and there's nothing really other than the fact that that I'm the guy that didn't make it. But let me tell you, Gary, this is I often say, and when I get invited to graduations, I often talk about the story of David and Goliath. In this case, I'm David. I have this whole conglomerate. Operation this launch against me, and I'm this little guy, and I think that Fidel Castro also talked about that at one time,
Well, one thing I want to ask about, because you talked about something that I think is probably true, is that you and Carl Hastie and many of your colleagues in the Assembly agree on the issues. I don't think there's a substantive difference in what you agree on. So what is the problem? You think it's simply because you had a relationship with Jose Rivera and Maria Baez and they had supported you, and so that he would like to, in essence, clean house? Well,
I've heard talks about there's one Bronx, and I hear this and I see this expression being made. There's one Bronx, but that's not so, because they have forgotten about one little corner of the Bronx. Is the 86th Assembly District, and I think that the chairman politically, he's got a lot to do with that, with forgetting about that piece, and that's why I think they're promoting the candidacy of Hector Ramirez, because they think that they could actually control somebody. You got to remember, I'm the unbought candidate. I am the guy that stands alone and that just does what the district wants done. I don't actually have to go back and run either to one or the other. About a particular issue. I just vote what my district wants me to.
If you win re-election,
when I win re-election,
you can characterize it any way you want. Assuming that happens, which I think you want to do, your relationship with Mr. Hastie in the Assembly will, as if this never happened, or do you think there will still be
It
some
will have
bad
to be
feeling?
as if it never happened, because you know what? I don't think, and I hope that this is not a personal fight. I think it's just a struggle right now, a tug of war, I should say. But we will overcome this, and we have to go back and work for the Bronx again.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Let's talk about some issues, and I know on one hand viewers love when we talk about these things because they want to hear about them. On the other hand, a lot of viewers say, you know what, I don't care about any of that. I care about whether or not we have health care, we have jobs, children are educated. You launched something called Castro Care.
That's correct.
Tell me, I know it's something you're proud of. Tell me a little bit about what Castro Care is.
Well, I come from the healthcare industry, and I feel that with all the prevalence we have with the child obesity and diabetes, asthma, and all of the sickness that the Bronx happen to have, I think is necessary for us to remind people that listen, you should check yourself. And the best way to do it, Castro Care is all about catching you when you're coming off from work. You're rushing home. I say, what? Why don't you stop and check your blood pressure? Why don't you stop and actually check your diabetes, check your sugar level or your cholesterol. We want to keep you healthy, and that's what Castro Care is all about.
How do you make it so that people can get regular health care rather than having to resort to things like stopping in the street on the way home? It would be certainly preferable for all of us that everybody has a primary care physician and goes to that physician for a normal, proper doctor visit.
Well, I wish that I could instill that in people from birth, and in communities such as ours, we have other priorities, and unfortunately, we have other priorities when we wake up in the morning. We wake up thinking about how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my electricity? They have other priorities. We want to, our goal is to instill in people the fact that, I have to take care of my health, because if I don't take care of my health, then I can't even think about the other stuff that I have to do.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk what we mentioned earlier about the budget in the state of New York. Why don't we have a budget? What is the governor says that the legislature doesn't have the stomach to make the tough decisions?
Well, yeah.
Do you have the stomach to make the tough decisions?
I think.
And is the governor right that the legislature really has been irresponsible, and certainly the assembly when it comes to
No,
spending?
definitely not. I think we have kept the people that we represent in mind. Definitely, because, if I come back to my district and I say, well, you know what, most of the people that are still employed, they work in the healthcare industry. So if I go back to my district and say, you know what, there's going to be a $700 million cut, $700 million cut in healthcare. That means that you are going to lose your jobs. We have to fight for that because that's what keeps our economy going. Mm-hmm. Aside from the small business that we mentioned earlier, things like that are the things that are important.
So
education.
How do you balance the budget? I mean, the governor has been adamant saying that the legislature, he doesn't necessarily deny the things that you're saying, but he says somebody's got to give somewhere. How do you balance the budget? Play governor for me. What would you recommend that the legislature do?
Well, there was a plan, maybe not the best plan, the rubbish plan, when we actually will balance the budget $6 billion and we will borrow $2 billion, in a three-year process. So we will borrow $2 billion on the first year, $2 billion on the second year, $2 billion on the third year, and we will have 5 years to pay it back. That plan actually balanced this budget, the budget that the Assembly is proposing. But the governor actually, though it was a plan from his lieutenant governor, he does not agree with it. So
you like that plan? You like the ravage plan?
I think that, out of all the plans, because of the decision of cutting, and then cutting is not just cutting programs and benefits, it's cutting jobs, basically. Because a lot of those people work, in those programs because of those jobs, because of that money that's allocated to those programs.
Mm-hmm. Some of your campaign literature talks about housing, and one of the notes in here says the objective is to create incentives to develop affordable housing for new populations. How does one do that? This is a question mark that is
new population. Well,
going all over the Bronx.
Yes, new population. You have to understand, due to gentrification, we get a lot of people from the Washington Heights, the Manhattan area, Upper Manhattan area, moving into the Bronx, already to the infrastructure that can no longer hold the people that are here.
That's a wave of immigration I didn't think you were going to talk about. I thought you were going to talk about immigration from other places.
No, but this
that's
is
an interesting
definitely
concept.
this is definitely what's happening, and we have to accommodate because you know what, this is New York, this is the United States, and we can't tell people not to move into the Bronx.
How do we get affordable housing into your district?
So
those people have places. To live?
We have to work together with developers and the labor unions to come in and sit down at the same table and determine, because you know we don't want to just create housing, affordable housing that's not going to have prevailing wage jobs, or that they're just going to have a job there that's going to be temporary, and after they finish the construction they go away. So we want to make sure that we have the community in mind, and definitely that may be a little more expensive, but we have to find creative ways in order to do this.
Mm-hmm. Tax incentive plans?
Definitely, we need to do that.
Of course, then the governor will come back and say, you know what, you're not balancing the budget in that way. Another item.
But let me tell you, if I may,
sure,
in the housing issue, for example, today, I mean, the Bronx still has a lot of the affordable housing still in the Bronx. I think the Bronx has the cheapest housing stock in the city. But like today, I went to a building because I got a call from a constituent, and 2229 Creston Avenue.
Okay.
Building is falling apart. And the call was just because they didn't have.
Sounds like about 187th Street, somewhere along.
No, actually, no. It's further south. It's actually on 182nd Street.
All right,
182nd Street.
I'm off by 5.
Well, you don't know my district, I guess. So, but anyway, the building is in derelict conditions. People are living there, paying rent. Actually, we have, and I invite you to come. We have on Friday. We have set a meeting with the actual tenants of the building, because we're going to start the proceedings to start a rent strike. If you look at my record, I have been fighting landlords, because of the fact that they are getting paid for their rent. They would take people to court if they don't pay, but they're not providing the services, And usually we catch these guys in the wintertime. But, as I was surprised that we had this call in the summertime.
And so a rent strike, because we've talked on this show about existing housing and the horrible state in so many of our neighborhoods of existing housing. You're saying rent strikes and tenant actions is a way to get the housing stock improved.
To get their attention, definitely, to get the landlord's attention.
Do you
I created a program for my office, actually. It's called Fix It. Where my office gets involved with community organizations such as Northwest Clergy Coalition and other organizations, South Bronx churches and other organizations in the area, to actually fight these landlords to make sure that they provide the adequate services in their buildings.
I'm guessing that you have a line out your door for those kinds of things because
that and immigration.
The issue is rampant in the borough of the Bronx. There's something else that I pulled out of your materials, which I hear about on this show all the time, and that is partnering, which you mentioned, you partnered with Citizen Schools to bring new after-school programs to the district.
That is a great program.
Talk about that, and can that be replicated? Because after-school programs, of course, is something on the mind of Bronxites all over the Bronx.
And they have dwindled throughout the different schools. I mean, I have what I called my listening tours. I talk to my principals every month about different issues that they have in their schools, and see if I could be helpful in anything. And this idea of Citizen Schools came to me, and it's worth $300,000, the program, for 1 year to run it at one particular school in my district, 306, which actually is going to take 6th graders and teach them a trade. They're going to bring in, let's say, a baker. The baker's going to come in 1 day a week. He's going to talk about baking cakes and doing all kinds of stuff.
But how many children can be reached
all
by a
6th
program
graders.
like that?
All 6th graders in that particular school.
In that particular school.
Yes.
Can it be replicated?
Yes,
Again,
definitely.
what does it come down to? It comes down to dollars and cents?
It comes down to dollars and cents. I mean, I have to fight hard to get that $300,000.
Mr. Castro, Assemblyman Castro, thank you for joining us. As I said earlier, we are sorry that your opponent is not here, but there's not much I could do about it.
I definitely concur and agree with you that he should have been here. I mean, he lost an opportunity. I mean, actually, the people of the 86th Assembly District deserve to hear who is planning to represent them in Albany.
And your website is on the screen, and we appreciate your time. We wish you good luck in the election. And should we get a chance to invite you back, we hope you'll accept the invitation again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Folks, if you have further comments or questions on anything you heard on tonight's show, or anything going on in the Bronx, and email them to us at BronxTalk@hotmail.com, and we'll read those on the air during a future edition of our program. Archives of our program are available at blip.tv. You just search for Bronx Talk. Next week, August 9th, we'll have the two candidates in the 76th Assembly District, challenger Louis Sepulveda and incumbent Peter Rivera. They both agreed to be with us. They'll square off Monday night at 9 o'clock. That's August 9th. Then August 16th, we'll talk education and discuss the recent test score results. On August 23rd, we'll have a wonderful program with a Bronx comic book artist, and he's going to tell us and show us, actually, what he's doing to help Bronx children learn a little better. Bronx Talk every Monday night at 9, of course, here on BronxNet, Cablevision Channel 67, Verizon Fios 33. Special thanks to producer Jane Folloro and our usual cast of thousands who are up in the booth. And to you,